So one of the things that I love to do as far as growing my podcast is talk about it in real life to people, because I think we kind of forget, it's all about social media and online. And I co-host a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu podcast. We have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu camp coming up in a couple weeks here in Indianapolis. It's going to be 250 of my closest friends coming to roll around on mats. And one of our listeners actually gave us this idea. She's like, hey, could you get some cards printed up so that when I travel around, because she travels around the country, she's like, I drop into different gyms. I'd really like to be able to tell people about your podcast. I was like, thank you, smart podcast listener. Of course I'm going to do that. So we got cards printed up. We got a little QR code on them. And it's just one of those really simple things that you can do. It's so easy just to pass a card out as you're meeting friends. I feel much more likely to listen to somebody's podcast if I've actually met them in real life and had a conversation with them, because there's instantly some kind of connection. Also, feel free to pick one of these up, because we don't always get to record in a podcasting studio, but if we're recording in our bedroom, hang it on the door, let people know. And it's got a handy little checklist on the back, like press record, save the recording. Very important thing. So if you are interested in jiu-jitsu, pick one up. If you need a checklist and a cool little door hanger, pick one up. So, okay, raise your hand if you've ever felt stuck trying to grow your podcast. Oh, thank God it's not just me. And I feel like this is something that is just going to continue and continue. It's never ending. So just prepare. You're never going to grow it enough, I think. At least that's how I feel. And more importantly, what does growth actually mean to you? Is it more downloads? Is it more followers on social media? Is it more subscribers to your email list? Growth can be a lot of different things and mean different things to different people. And for me, really, growth has shifted from kind of that expansive, like growing the download numbers, to more of, I think of it more like depth, like community and connection. That's what I'm really interested in growing right now, because I think the world needs more of that. And just look, we have this amazing community of podcasters, and I think Chris had such a grand idea of bringing us all together. So thank you, Chris. Thank you for all of this, really. I see podcasting as kind of the starting, like the jumping off to a deeper conversation with our listeners. So that's the lens through which I approach content creation and thinking about growth. So I'm not going to give you 10 tactics to 10x your downloads today, because you can you can go home and ask your BFF chat GPT how to do that. And they'll give you a great answer, I'm sure. But 3 things, just kind of basic things, reasons why your podcast might not be growing is that, and I'm so guilty of this first one, I get so wrapped up in the planning and the production of the show that growth is like kind of an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, you should probably put some clips out and promote it on social media. And producing a podcast, it is a big job, especially if you are wearing all of the hats. The second thing is you bought into, I'm just gonna repurpose random clips from my show, and that'll make people wanna subscribe. And I'll just let AI choose the clips because it knows my audience way better than I ever possibly could. And then the third, saddest reason your show might be not growing is because your baby is ugly. You get a listener to press play, but then you don't give that person a reason to come back, or let alone share it with a friend. So whether you're podcasting for your business or for fun, my goal is that you walk away with some clarity today around like, what is your growth goal? And maybe you leave here with, one tactic or one practice that you can put into place. We've already heard how much YouTube is helping with the clips, so there you go. Like, the pressure's off me. You've already got one good thing. Shorts are the way. And really, if you're not on YouTube, get there. There are some nuances and some things to think about. Like, if you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, don't just put your audio podcast out there because it's going to tank your channel. But if you just want discovery and people to find you, there's no reason not to have your podcast on YouTube. And you can put the audio version out there with just the show artwork, and you're good to go. And people will find it. So I work mostly with estate planning attorneys. I know it's sexy. And then I have the passion project of the jujitsu. It's hard to say sometimes. But even though they're two very different audiences with very different goals, a lot of the growth strategies are still the same. There's a lot of overlap. And I approach it as, do you want to be a siren or a sledgehammer? Because AI is going to create those 30 pieces of content from your 30-minute podcast, and they're all going to be super awesome. But then who has time to upload all of those? So I want you to think more like a siren, you know, that mythical creature with her female beautiful song that got people to more lean in. I mean, you know, the people that went and checked out the sirens kind of met their doom. So we don't want anybody to meet their doom because of our podcast, but we do want to give them a reason to lean in rather than just hammering them all the time with here's my latest podcast, here's my latest podcast. It's not working. So how do we start singing like a siren and stop swinging the sledgehammer? So the first thing I want to encourage you to do, and we'll take a couple minutes, and just answer these 3 questions. What do I want to grow? Why does that matter to me? And how am I going to measure that progress without obsessing over my downloads? So take a couple minutes, talk amongst yourselves, and then we'll share some answers. The questions are, what do I want to grow? Why does that matter to me? And how will I measure that progress?
And building a community. So I'm looking at what percentage of my listeners are returning listeners, what percentage of my YouTube is returning versus news. And right now those numbers are small. And so it gives me a metric, and it also depresses the health. So that's really heavy, where I really want to focus my attention. Because I think with that will come the downloads and will come the other things.
Yeah. All right, this table, anybody have anything they want to share? Okay.
We were just speaking in race production about Papuri, clip to Jeriazo, the power get traction. So, but one kid about the gazing is but first, we did. As the day, she, how many person they come the father's not bowster, tap is your phone, see? Tape, you feel dirt and move the mess, they always provide the time. Out. My baby is, but I will be not existing at that. See, look. You can be the asthma, the thick tab, and the here, you like,
Yeah, I love the YouTube clips and the reels, and I think initially I got kind of wrapped up in, well, this has to like drive people to my podcast, but it doesn't. Like, I'm on TikTok, there are people that I will never listen to their podcast, but I always watch the reels, and like that is still providing value to me. And so I think as podcasters, it can't be all about, well, they got to listen to my podcast. No, leave it as a standalone piece of content and let them share it with their friends, because then maybe their friend is going to come listen to your show. But don't get so wrapped up that you think, oh, it's got to always drive downloads, because it doesn't. And you don't have to go viral. The one video I had an Instagram video that went viral, like for me, it had like 18 million views. It was not related to my podcast. I got a guitar slide stuck on my finger after Thanksgiving because I swelled up. And then I was like, the caption on it was, "Can Blue Dawn save me?" Because my wife was like, just put some Blue Dawn and it'll slide right up. And sure enough, but that was the thing that blew up. And then the comments got weird, so I just had to turn them off. As the comments do. A great resource, if you are not already subscribed to Jeremy Edds' Marketing Podcast Academy email, he puts out a phenomenal email, has a great podcast, and he recently just shared, he did a podcast survey, and I think he said there were 311 people that had responded to it, and a lot of it was about growth. And one of the things that the takeaways he shared was that a lot of podcasts didn't experience rapid growth until they were at least 50 episodes in. So consistency and showing up really does lead to that growth. It may not happen in your first 10 episodes or your first 20, but keep doing it. And then I think about kind of within the content itself, there's 4 R's. There's relevance, resonance, retention, and then how are we going to repackage or repurpose that? And the relevance is really, are your episode topics relevant to your target audience? Like, you've got to give somebody a reason to listen. And make sure that you are titling your episodes in a way so that somebody knows that that topic is going to be relevant to them. Episode 56, not a great podcast title. And sometimes even just putting the person's name, not a great podcast title, because if I don't know who that person is, then I don't have any reason to press play. Do a title that makes a promise. Like, if you listen to this, this is what you're gonna get. I think that Mel Robbins is really good at her episode titles. Sometimes they're a little clickbaity to me, but I do feel like there's a lot that we can learn from YouTubers about how to title episodes and create artwork and build retention. So like some example of her podcast titles are The Secret to Stopping Anxiety and Fear That Actually Works. I might need to listen to that. Trust Your Gut, How to Make a Hard Decision. Oh, that sounds interesting to me. Okay. So make a promise and then deliver on that promise. If you're struggling to come up with topics that might be relevant to your audience, number one, just ask them. Like for the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, we get so many DMs. They're like, hey, could you talk about this? Hey, I've got a question about that. And we actually end up turning a lot of those into our podcast episodes. Facebook groups are also a great place to see, like, what is the current conversation? How are people feeling about things? Should I do a podcast episode about that? So that's just a couple ways. Reddit is also good if it's not a hot mess. And then like a lot of my attorneys, they plan their episodes around questions they get from in-person events, or, actual client meetings. Like, they have so many horror stories, and it's terrible, but they make really great podcast content. So whether it's business or a passion podcast, think about what's relevant to your audience at different stages of their journey, which is great because then you can promote episodes to your back catalog. So like with the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, I started that when I was a brand new baby white belt. I've progressed a little bit, but for all of the people that are new to the podcast, we're like, hey, guess what? We've got a starter pack for you. We made a playlist in Spotify. Start here with these episodes, or create a YouTube playlist, and don't let that catalog sit back and not use it. Like, put it to work for you. It's there for a reason. You worked hard on it. Share it with your people. And then the second R is resonance. I was listening to Steve Earle's Outlaw Country show on Sirius XM one morning, and he's a country singer-songwriter, and he was talking about empathy in the context of being a songwriter, but I think that really speaks to the relevance and resonance of our podcast too, and how you are relatable as a host. And I'll paraphrase the quotes. He said, it's about empathy. People don't give a beep about what happened to you. They give a beep about what happened to you that happened to them or could happen to them. And it's about putting yourself in other people's shoes. So I think it's really important as a host to make your listener feel something, because is gonna be the enemy of resonance and growth for your show. Make them laugh, make them cry, make them feel smarter, Make them feel like they aren't alone, like they're part of a community. Or if you've got a guest, make them feel like your guest can actually help them. And you better start delivering on that promise of the title and making them feel something and giving them some kind of value within the first couple minutes of the podcast, or they will turn it off. Like, we don't need the 2-minute super produced podcast intro and with all of your, the letters behind your name and all of your experience and why you're so awesome. Get to the point. Give us what we tuned in for. So you got to get the listeners, but then you've got to keep the listeners once you get them. And then that is retention. And it's so frustrating as a podcaster that I can't log into my podcast host and see what my retention rates are for the episodes. I've got to go to YouTube, and then I've got to go to Spotify for creators, and then I've got to go to Apple Podcasts Connect and see how they're doing in each individual platform. But if you're not growing, look at that retention rate. That should be the number one metric that you are focusing on, because if people aren't sticking around, they sure aren't going to be sharing your show with anybody else and telling their friends about it, and they're not going to come back. So retention is that, the focus rate. Focus there. Another interesting stat that came out in the Jeremy Edds report that he shared was that the median YouTube view duration is 7.5 minutes. And if you've got a 30-minute or an hour podcast, it might make you feel kind of sad. But the average retention for audio was 24 minutes. So just because you're not getting super long retention rates in YouTube doesn't mean it's not a great show. It just means it's really hard. People actually watch podcasts on YouTube? I'm listening in my car, I'm walking the dog. So don't look at that YouTube retention rate and think, my show, wah, wah. No, look at the audio download or the audio retention rate and put more weight in that. Some tactics to help you with your episode retention. Like I said earlier, hook them with the title and then deliver. Even if it's just one thing, even if it's just a laugh, a plot twist right off the bat, something, get their attention. Something else that we've done in the Jiu-Jitsu podcast is we've created some segments. We had a listener ask, hey, would you go over this certain competition rule set? I'm like, oh yeah, probably be helpful to know the rules if you're gonna go compete. And that's something that we put towards the end of the episode, hopefully to help maintain that retention. But we talk about it at the beginning of the episode. Hey, make sure you stick around because we're gonna talk about this particular rule, what that means and how that could impact you. And then also for retention, again, going back to the YouTubers, they're really good at adding those end cards, putting links in the descriptions of, hey, I've got a related video, you should check this out. We go into more depth about, which microphone to use or whatever that topic is. And do that within your podcast. If you've got a podcast episode or you created a playlist, talk about that within the episode. Like, hey, in the links or in the show notes, I'm gonna drop a link to this other episode that you should check out with this related content. It's really valuable. And as a listener, I love that. If I'm into what you're saying and I'm just tell me all the things because you're my new best podcaster friend now, make it easy. Remove as much friction as you can for them to take that next step with you. And then yes, YouTube Shorts. The cool thing that you can do with Shorts now is that you can actually link them to the full episode, which is kind of cool. Thank you, YouTube. And then give people a reason to come back, to recommend your show, to invite their friends. So tease what's coming up in the next episode or the next few episodes. Rather than just, hey, subscribe and rate and review my podcast, tell me why I should subscribe. What are you talking about? What's gonna bring me back? And then ask them to share it with a friend who, needs a laugh or would benefit from it. Sharing podcasts is my love language. So I love to be like I'll text my sister, like, you got to hear this episode. You're going to love it. Give people a reason to share that. And it starts with making a really great episode that is relatable, that's going to be relevant to them, and that's resonant. And then when you do get those episodes, as you're thinking about it, and this kind of goes back to the repurposing and the marketing as the afterthought, be really intentional about, like, when you've outlined your episode, hopefully you're not just completely winging it. Hopefully there's some thought put into it. It helps a lot. But like, what are those key takeaways that you want your audience to leave with that even if they don't listen to this episode, this is gonna be really helpful. This is a nugget of information that I wanna make sure that I hit this in the podcast so that I can repurpose that. And then take those episodes and, if you're doing it for your business, write a blog post. Use it in your email newsletter. Share the shorts. Like, there's a lot of things that we can be doing, and it feels overwhelming at times. So pick one thing. Before you leave here today, write down one thing. I'm gonna focus on growing this. Maybe it's you're gonna consistently put your shorts out. Maybe it's I'm gonna publish my episodes consistently, because I have trouble with that myself sometimes. So just be really intentional and purposeful about what you're bringing to your show, and that's gonna help right off the bat. So that's all I've got right now. That was a really solid ending, wasn't it? That's it. Yeah. Who has questions? Yes.
Great discussion. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness in that. That was awesome. Have you had any success with TikTok? I'm curious about that platform for listeners and viewers, somewhere in the short scenario, but in that platform. Anything there?
I have not done. The short answer is no. I've shared some of the jiu-jitsu stuff, but not, consistently. Who here has had any success with TikTok or could speak to that?
Define success.
Define success. No, I mean, I do upload clips and stuff to TikTok, but what I find with TikTok, if it's not, like, I almost always have to put something, because it's not just a podcast, but because it's a podcast and we don't have like this huge following, I have to attach music that's trending a lot of the time. Those are the ones that get the most views. So if there's a way for me to like attach a trending song or something like that, I'll get more views on it. But it's really hard if it's just like me talking like this, right? And it's just like straight up content, unless what you're talking about is trending too. So I think on TikTok, you have to know what's popular at the time and try to tap into that in some way. And that's limited. I mean, we're not doing awesome on TikTok, but we're not doing terrible either.
Fantastic. Did you have something?
Oh, I've had some success on TikTok, and I'm just like Chris, she said, you got to look at everybody who's in your genre on TikTok and see what they're doing. I like produced short videos, so I add images from some of the things that you can add from Leonardo or ideology to TikTok while I'm talking, and I have seen my views to skyrocket from adding that, because you're telling a story in a short period of time on TikTok, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Of course you're on the TikTok.
Yeah, well, so you kind of have to game TikTok. Like, Instagram lets you be more like content focused and really, like, I think aligned with how you would show up on YouTube or anywhere else. And where I've had success on TikTok is mixing in like a lot of randomness, some trending stuff. Like, you kind of just have to play and do a mix of things that are getting on the trend, and then almost like interject some of your more like podcast related or topical things in. And then I've had success like really like commenting my take on a current headline or a current topic or something that people are talking a lot about, and then people will click through sometimes. And I kind of grew it first under my name and then changed it to my podcast. And I didn't lose people. So it's kind of like you have to be as random as TikTok is, right? So you kind of throw everything you use for Instagram or YouTube out the window, and you have to kind of mix to get people's interest initially, and then they continue to kind of like want to know more. But it's definitely a longer haul. You go random for or you go viral for the most stupid stuff, but people will stick around once you get them there. So you don't have to keep doing stupid random stuff. Eventually they want to know your credibility. At least that's been my experience.
I have a quick question about buying any kind of subscribers or advertising. Like, what is your thought on paid advertising or boosting and that sort of thing?
I have not. Have you done any paid advertising?
Yeah, I would say the most effective paid advertising I've done is buying on Spotify in podcast ads on Spotify, okay? Or Overcast has a system where you can buy podcast ads. Because if you're advertising on other podcasts, it's much more effective than anything else. Do not buy Facebook ads, okay? We spent $5,000 with one client on Facebook ads, and acquisition was like $300 a listener. It was way too expensive, not effective at all. I have not found, I think the step to get from that digital ad to getting people to take the subscribe action is too difficult. But we have had success in getting people to buy in other podcasts, like Jordan Harbinger for his show. He spends $40,000 a month on advertising in other podcasts, and he makes 3 times that based on the amount of people that are acquisition. So if you're going to spend money, I would definitely do it on Spotify, by Spotify ads. Thank you, Kat. He loves to run down that ramp. That's his treat. Have you emailed your email list and asked them to listen? Like what we were talking about today. People tend to start a podcast or do a podcast and hide it from their friends and family, when those are the people who are going to listen first and most and are going to show up. You know, my mom and dad have never, I'd been a paid professional podcaster for 10 years, and my dad goes, listen to my first podcast, that Dale Jr.'s got a good one, right? So it's not universal, but your friends and family are gonna support you first and foremost, so like, that's my main growth strategy. Like, have you put in the legwork to build word of mouth first, then go to paid? Because paid is expensive. Yes, buddy. On Shorts and TikTok and everything, hold on. My wife is a week postpartum, and I couldn't leave them at home. So the reality about the different platforms is each one's a little different. So I was talking with this one influencer. She has like millions of likes on the different platforms. She said green screen works best on TikTok. And then if she put that on Instagram, it wouldn't work. Instagram is skits. But if she put the skits on TikTok, it wouldn't work. Everything works on Shorts because they're trying to get you into that system, right? So Shorts, there isn't, out of 10 channels that I'm managing right now where we're doing Shorts, one client has 20,000. I think you had like 10,000 download or views last month. Like it's crazy how much the Shorts are driving YouTube views, and I'm almost wondering if they're kind of cannibalizing some of the main show views. I've seen a drop in all 10 of those channels on the main show views, and then some will pop up to like several hundred, and then the next one will be 30. But I think it goes back to what Jen is saying. It's like, if people got your point through that short, that's the win, right? So, yeah, I think you have to think about each platform. There's no rhyme or reason. Each one is different. And every one of these platforms, if you go onto TikTok and go, how to gain success on TikTok, everybody has a million videos on it. But each one is different. And I think you just pick one. Like, I'm just going to do YouTube Shorts. I'm going to do that really well. I'm going to figure that out. And then take the pressure, because there's just so many platforms and channels. It's like overwhelming. You don't have to do all of them. You can't do all of them well unless it's full-time. And even full-time people, like Nate Spangle, who we are not related, he told me, he's like, I can't keep up. And that's his full-time job, and he's got a staff. So, as hobbyists, pick one. Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok. Don't waste your time on Facebook. Don't waste your time on X. X never drove clicks, never drove anything. Like Bob and Tom had 330,000 Twitter followers, and I'd get 9 clicks. Right? So Facebook and Twitter, don't worry about those. LinkedIn is really powerful. If you're in a certain industry, like I see Lisa and Sean at the top of my feed every time, right? And that's how you want it, right? You post. I see Kelly all the time, right? And so doing things that kind of get get likes and put that in there. Sean has now clicked into the vertical video section and is getting fed in some of that on TikTok. I noticed that this week. LinkedIn is really powerful. Their ads do not work. Do not ever pay LinkedIn for an advertisement for any reason, ever. I've been told that by professionals who do this, like who buy paid advertising. So that's my recommendation, just kind of what I've seen. Like if you're gonna spend the money, have you done the word of mouth work first? I had one client, and like in terms of a growth strategy, I don't know if you talked about live events, that was always our best like way of getting people together in our audience and building relationships with the people in our audience. And it doesn't have to be, like this was really simple. I spent $50 on food and plates and drinks, and then rent this space out, and there's 25 of us, right? Starla was a client of mine. She would just put out on her podcast, every first Friday, I'm going to be at Binkley's at 54th and College. And she'd get like 4 or 5, 6 people show up. Like, because people are lonely, they want to meet people, but every month she'd get new clients, new listeners, new people that would just come and hang out. So I think it doesn't have to be that coordinated. It can literally just be, I'm gonna go to Ash and Elm and talk to the owners. They're all in on this idea, by the way. You can go and say, hey, I want to use your place as a meetup space. I want to just say, all the Be Easy listeners, we're going to be every first Friday night at 7 p.m. at Ash and Elm. Come meet us. We're going to get some drinks. We did that. We called it Liberty and Chill. It is still going on. Every Friday night, Harry gets a group of people together over at a local brewery. And that is building real relationships with people. And you create content to build a community. And then once you build a community, then you can monetize it. And so that's like, live events are a huge way to get growth. I mean, that's how we grew Patreon, that's how we grew our numbers, that's how we grew everything. Because people were like, oh, you're a real person like me.
Chris is a real person. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question. The tactic of doing a short clip before you do the intro to the podcast. Good, bad. I've done it both ways. I haven't made up my mind. Like a 25-second quote or something.
Yeah, I think it depends on the show, because I've done that too, and I've felt conflicted about it. I think my problem is that I hear a lot, and there's no context. And then I'm like, is that the best? Because I feel like if you're gonna do that, that needs to be like the number one thing. Like, oh, this was great. Yeah, I want to hear more. If it's like, meh, I don't know, then I may not stick around. One of the things, like one of my clients is kind of doing like a short hook, like asking a question right off the bat. And then like the music comes in and she starts with her intro, and it kind of sets the tone for what we're talking about and the topic. But yeah, then you don't have to like go through and find the clip and try to guess what you think's really gonna resonate. Like ask a question, something engaging right off the bat to create that hook. You're welcome.